Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another live iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I'm the host here at iThemes Training. And today I'm joined by Timothy Jacobs. Timothy's the lead developer for iThemes Security, and he's going to be talking to us today about some fantastic new features that will be included in the next version of iThemes Security, and those are biometric logins and passkeys. Now, in addition to his work at iThemes, Timothy is a WordPress core committer, component maintainer of the WordPress REST API, and he also organizes the WordPress New York City Help Desk Meetup. So welcome back to iThemes Training, Timothy. How's it going today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Nathan?
And I'm hanging in there. So just from a 10,000-foot view, what are biometric logins and passkeys, and why are they important?
Yeah, so biometrics and passkeys are what a lot of the big tech industry players are betting on, and we're hoping are too, is maybe what's going to finally kill the password. We know how kind of terrible passwords can be, and this is a pretty exciting new way of being able to log in to not just your websites, your apps, everything, using something that is secure from the ground up. You know, passwords were kind of a thing that we've had for ages and haven't really stood the test of time. But passkeys and biometrics were kind of engineered from the ground up to be secure. So they solve a lot of the pitfalls that we've had for years dealing with website security. And we're going to touch on some of those today.
Yeah. So for those of you that work with clients, if you have that situation of clients will never use two-factor and they struggle to use a password manager and they always use their one favorite password for all of their sites, hopefully this is going to be the beginning of a solution to that. I love what Kathy just put in the chat. Kill the password TM. We might need to see if we can trademark that phrase. That would be awesome. So a couple of housekeeping details, and we'll turn it over to Timothy. Timothy, you've got some live demo as well as slides today, right?
Yes, we're going to be live demoing a preview version of this release. This release isn't ready to go out just yet, so you're getting an early sneak peek at it. But there is going to be live demo, and I've got all my fingers and toes crossed that it'll go well.
All right. So if you'd like to download today's slides, you may do so. I just dropped the link in the chat one more time if you're just joining us. If you're watching this on the replay, click the download handout button that's down below the video, and you can grab those. Also, a couple of other housekeeping notes. Chat, of course, is open, and we welcome you to participate, dialogue between each other there in the chat as we go. Also, if you have a question, please pop open the Q&A box that you can, if you mouse over the shared Zoom screen, you'll see the Q&A icon. Just go ahead and have that open if you'd like to. You can ask a question there, but also if somebody else asks a question that you would like to see answered, you can click that thumbs up button that'll be just underneath the question and upvote that question. At the end of today's webinar, when we get to the time of Q&A, we will be taking questions in order of votes. So do that. Now, one other thing that I'll mention, I know some of you may be watching the webinar on a smaller screen than others. And when we get to the point where we're sharing the WordPress backend and maybe some of the type is too small, if you mouse over the shared window at the top, there's a view options button that you can drop down and actually zoom in your Zoom window. That might be helpful. So Timothy won't really be able to zoom in any more than he already is. And so if you're finding it hard to view, then just use that zoom option to zoom in. So with that, Timothy, I'll turn it over to you. Let's get started. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and share some of these slides. So yeah, as Nathan mentioned, we're going to start off. Oopsies, that's a little advanced. We're going to start out with some slides talking about WebAuthn and Passkeys, and then we're going to hop into some live demo. So yeah, I wanted to start this talking about what I would consider the state of account security. What does that look like right now in the WordPress ecosystem? And so the big thing right now is that we have passwords. And we have the problem of weak passwords. We've all, heard the stories of clients that are using passwords that are awful. They wonder why their site gets hacked, and you say, "Hey, what was your password?" Well, it was the name of my website, or something like that. It's like, "Oh no, you can't do that." And so with iThemes Security, we of course have this strong password requirement feature, and this is pretty cool. That lets you say, "Hey, you have to have a strong password." If we ever encounter the fact that you don't have a strong password, we'll say, "Hey, no, you've got to change your password. We're not going to let you continue any further until you do it." But we still kind of have a problem with that, which is that, hey, you tell a client, you need to use a strong random password like this. I can't keep track of that. as you might try and convince them to use a password manager, but easier said than done. While we probably all know that the most secure way of keeping your password safe, it can be a little bit difficult to convince clients that, hey, this is something that they should be using. And so you might have heard of this kind of cool idea of 4 random words for passwords. So there's this thing, this XKCD article about saying, oh, you can just use 4 random words as a password. And they're right. This can give you a really strong password. What I often find is that sometimes then people say, oh, I can use 4 random words. What if we make them not random words? What if we make them very similar all the time and start reusing them across all of my different sites and have horse, battery, staple, my business name or something as password? And that's not so great, because the problem with reusing passwords is that they can get stolen. There are password breaches that are happening all the time, all across the web. And if your password gets stolen and you're using it on another site, it makes it super easy for attackers to do what's called a credential stuffing attack, where they just grab all of these passwords that they think they might be yours. And they're not even brute forcing them. They're just saying, hey, we saw this in a breach one time. And if you're reusing your password, they'll get into your account really quickly. The other problem with passwords, of course, is phishing. If you are working at a big company these days, you probably get tested on your ability to not get phished. This is when someone pops up a website and tries to trick you into giving up your password. And that's a problem that passwords have, is that you have to be very vigilant to make sure that you're always entering the password in the correct spot, the actual website that you're looking to log into. And so all of these different issues with passwords is why we've had 2-factor as a feature as part of iThemes security and kind of across the web. And 2-factor is an okay solution. Okay, I'm just gonna have to move a little. My builds are not working properly. Okay. Well, so yeah, 2-factor is kind of like the strongest protection that you have available. And it says, hey, when you log in, you don't just need to give me your password. There's this different code that you get that is generated to you or is sent to you, and you have to use that once and put it in. And that improves things a lot. It is really the strongest protection that you have available. The problem is that it can be a pretty confusing user experience. It's difficult to teach to clients, hey, what is this 2-factor thing? What is this app that I have to use? Authy, Google Authenticator. I have to find this thing in this code. What happens if I type it too slow? The numbers keep changing. It's a little bit difficult to deal with. And the problem is that even though 2-factor is great, it's still actually susceptible to phishing attacks. And so what really do I mean by phishing attacks? Well, so here is a pretty cool example of how people can be tricked into giving up their password. And so sometimes this is just through a simple pop-up, but other times it can be through cloning an entire website. You see in this GIF on the right here, this is a pretty novel phishing attack that I saw recently called the browser-in-browser phishing attack. And so what happens is your website you're visiting on might say, hey, we can sign in with Microsoft, we can sign in with Google, we can sign in with Apple. And they'll present a pop-up that looks like it's a pop-up from your actual computer, but instead it's something that exists only within their web page and looks very similar to Microsoft's actual login page. And you have to be very vigilant and check, hey, is the URL that I'm logging into the actual right one? But here that won't even work because this isn't actually your real browser. So this is a pretty novel way of getting tricked. But even if you might take a look at one of these and say, hey, I'm not going to get tricked by this, you might have this example here. And so this is, we're watching what you wouldn't believe. This is not Microsoft's website. It looks identical to Microsoft's website. And the reason it looks identical to Microsoft's website is because it is serving exactly Microsoft's website. So everything here is the actual UI that Microsoft shows. And the only way you can protect against this is if you are 100% confident in the URL that you're visiting. You can see here, they're actually getting prompted for their 2-factor code from Microsoft, and they're going to enter it. And they're going to be able to log in and get into an actual Microsoft account without knowing anything went wrong. But in the background, an attacker has stolen all of their credentials, their 2-factor code, their session. Their account is totally compromised. And the only way you would know is if you took a look in the top left of that corner there and see that, hey, this URL doesn't look right. In this example, it's just cyberfish.xyz, which is a little bit of a giveaway. But real attackers can use long, confusing URLs that are difficult to understand what's going on. And so that kind of brought us to our passwordless login feature that we developed. The idea of passwordless login is that you can skip using a password. You don't need to care that your password is really long if you never have to type it in. And it skips two-factor. If you have two-factor set up, you can say, hey, you know what? I just got an email that's going to log me into my account. I think that is secure enough. I'm not going to enter in another two-factor code. And it has a pretty simple user experience. That is a bit phishing resistant. We'll kind of see a walkthrough of this flow in a second. But it does have the problem that, email is kind of slow, and waiting on that email to come in is a bit of a bummer. And so we can kind of see that here. You click, you say, check your email. You wait for the email to come in your inbox. You get a nice little email that just says, hey, click this login button to continue. And it is phishing resistant in this way. So you can see we have a little dialog that pops up if you're logging into a different device. And so this can kind of help protect against phishing attacks if you're really vigilant, saying, hey, this login information doesn't look right. But a very determined attacker who is willing to customize things for your particular website could actually bypass something like this. So the solution that Apple, Google, Microsoft, Fido, a whole lot of companies have been working on is WebAuthn and Passkeys. And so I'm going to show you a kind of quick demo video of what this looks like so you can get a taste, and then we'll dive into it a little bit more. So this is me saying, hey, I want to log in as a subscriber, and I'm logged in. That's the entire process. I didn't have to do anything else. I didn't have to get a two-factor email. All I'm doing is I'm typing in my username, I'm hitting use my passkey, and I'm logged in one click, which is really cool. So what is this? This is a biometric login with passkeys. And so this, like Passwordless Login before it, means you don't have to use any passwords. You don't have to use any two-factor codes, and you get truly a one-click login experience. You don't need to say, hey, okay, what's going to happen here? I'm going to wait for an email. It's going to take 5 minutes. You just click login and you're logged into the site. And this one really is phishing proof. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. You can see an example here. I logged in my desktop earlier, but this is me logging into my website with my phone using Face ID. And it's just as quick there. I say, hey, I want to log in. It gets prompted up to me, and I'm logged into my site. And so the thing with Passkeys is that this is based on what's called the WebAuthn standard. So this is an open standard that was born out of the FIDO Alliance. And it's backed by Apple and Google and Microsoft and many, many more. There are countless names that I could have included on this slide. And it's supported right now by all major browsers. And it has been in development for some 6+ years. So this is a very mature standard that's been thought through by a lot of people. A lot of different companies looking through the edge cases to build something that is a truly great and secure login experience. And so you can see this screenshot here we have is an example from Icloud on Mac OS with Safari. But Google Chrome has its own UI that's popping up here. You can see it even integrates with my watch by way of my Mac. And on Windows, you can log in using your fingerprint reader. So how do passkeys actually work? This is a kind of cool little 1,000-foot overview of what's happening under the hood. What happens when you go to a site and you say, hey, I want to register a new passkey, is you're going to talk to the server, you're going to talk to their website, and you're going to say, hey, I want to create a new account. And what the server is going to respond with is saying, hey, send me a public key. And what your computer is going to do is it's going to generate this new public-private key pair, and it's just going to send the public key to the website that they're trying to log into. And with that, the server is all done. That's all it needs to create an account. And so you notice there was no private information that was sent. All of these things are things that your device takes care of. You don't have to do anything yourself. Your device generates this public key for you and sends it over there. And the server doesn't need to hold on to anything secret. The only thing they care about is that, hey, there's this public key. And what that means is that when you then want to log in, the server says to your device, hey, here's this little piece of secret information that I randomly came up with. I want you to sign this information so that it proves to me that you are who you say you are. And so your device creates this signature with a private key, sends it back to the server, and the server is able to verify and say, hey, that looks exactly like who you are. And you don't have to do anything. The device handles all of this, and it means that, okay, we're logged in. We know it's you. Nothing private was sent. The only thing we know is who you're saying you are. and we're able to log you in securely and quickly. And so what do I mean about phishing? We mentioned there that the only thing that was moving around was the public key. So no personal information leaves your device. You might log in with your Touch ID, your Face ID, but a picture of your face, your thumbprint, your fingerprints, none of that information is going to the server. The server doesn't even get to know your name. The only thing that they get is just randomly generated data. So it is very secure in the sense that no personal information is ever leaving your device. And what that means is that there's nothing for an attacker to steal. So if an attacker compromises the server, like we see happens kind of frequently these days, is that some website gets hacked. If they do get hacked, there's no data for them. The only thing that's there is public information. There's nothing for them to steal, nothing for them to sell. They can't use it on any of the sites. And even if they have that public key, they can't log into the site as you because your data is protected by your private key, which never leaves your device. And what's really cool here is that you can't be tricked into giving up your password either. So if you look at this pop-up here, it says, do you want to sign into security.tests, which is the name of my testing website, as admin? And you might say that, oh, I guess I have to make sure that I'm logging into the right URL. We see this in all of these different UIs. You can see Google Chrome is saying, excuse me, it's trying to verify my identity on security.test. And we see the same thing with Windows. It says, hey, make sure you're signing into the right site. But here's the truth of this, is that it doesn't matter if you just completely blow past the warning. It's impossible for you to mistakenly log into the wrong site. Your browser just won't let you. So if you have a credential, it's not going to log in as you. You could be on another site that's like malicious.microsoft.maliciousHackerHere.com or something like that. And if they prompted you to log in, you wouldn't be able to log in. You wouldn't be able to give up your credentials. So it's impossible for you to be tricked into giving up your password. Now, there's something that I wanted to touch on that's a little bit more technical, but it kind of goes into explaining where we are in terms of the compatibility story. There are two types of authenticators. There are platform authenticators and roaming authenticators. And so platform, whoopsies. No. Spoilers, no looking. Okay, platform authenticators. They are built into your computer or smartphone. So this is something that is just built into the computer that you use. It's built into your smartphone. It's something that you always have with you. And these often use biometrics like Touch ID, Windows Hello, Face ID to be able to log you in securely. On your Macs, we have the fingerprint readers now, and on Windows, you have the fingerprint readers and the Windows Hello face scanning. Same thing with Android. And so they use, this is where the biometrics part come in, is a way to authenticate with your platform authenticator. The other kind are roaming authenticators, and these are separate hardware devices. They connect with Bluetooth, USB, or NFC. There are these things that you might have heard of before, things like YubiKeys or Titan keys. So I have one of these, and I've been able to use it for a long time. Oops, maybe you can see it there in focus. It's this neat little YubiKey, and this is a hardware authenticator. So in this case, this actual device here is what is able to log me in. iThemes Security supports both of them. But I think for most people, what they'll be able to use is a platform authenticator, the things that are built into your device, built into the computer that you're using. So you may have heard of things like YubiKeys in the past. Don't worry, you don't need to start sending out to all of your clients YubiKeys and try and convince them that there's this new complex thing to adopt and they have to worry about this piece of hardware. No, they can use platform authenticators that are built into their device. So what is the compatibility story for these things? Platform authenticators, you can see here, are supported by Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Brave, and Edge on a number of different operating systems. The big thing that is missing here for platform authenticators is Firefox right now on macOS. So that's not really a possibility right now. So if you're a macOS user, I would recommend sticking with Safari or with Google Chrome because they support those. And of course, you need to be on the latest operating systems. The other thing that we've learned in testing, and I'm not 100% sure about this, there's very little documentation, but what we've seemed to have learned during our testing is that you need to have an up-to-date Mac too. If you have a very old Mac computer, it's probably not going to be compatible with platform authenticators. But if you're using any recent Mac, a recent browser, you're compatible with this out of the box. There's nothing you need to do. Whereas roaming authenticators, these are supported pretty much everywhere. This is what the WebAuthn standard has supported for a very long time. So if you are a hardcore user who wants to use the YubiKey, I'll say I am partial to my YubiKey. I quite like it. You can use these anywhere. Now, I wanted to call out Apple specifically because Apple is in a little bit of a weird place right now. Right now, there is a difference between single device authentication and cross-platform device authentication. And so what this means is that right now, if you're using a Apple device that has a Touch ID sensor, has a Face ID sensor in your phone or something like that, or a Mac that has a Touch ID sensor, when you log in using Passkeys, it is just that computer that actually got authorized. It is just your Mac, just that phone, just your iPad, etc. And you need to register each of those devices separately. What's new in iOS 16 and coming to Safari later this year in a major release is iCloud syncing for passkeys. And so what this means is that you get a passkey and you can use it across all of your devices that are connected to your iCloud account as long as you have generated it on one. So you can sign up with your phone and then use that on your Mac, on your iPad, on another phone without having to do anything else. So I'd say if you're an Apple user, you may want to wait a little bit before hopping on Passkeys because they'll get a lot more easy to use later this fall when these new operating system releases. But if you do want to, if you're eager to get in, there is an option in the developer menu that you can use to enable that. But we're not going to really talk about that now. Now, when can you get Passkeys? So this is going to be releasing in iThemes Security Pro. It is a pro feature. In version 7.2. Our plan is to release this later this month. Don't hold me to that, but we're very, very confident that we'll be releasing it later this month. And pretty soon, we're also going to enable a first time for us with iThemes Security is we're going to enable a early access quick release. So if you go into the quick release settings for the iThemes licenser, there's a little checkbox there that says enable quick release updates. And later this week, hopefully, maybe next week at the latest, we'll be doing a early access release so you can take a peek at it just a little bit before it goes out into the wild. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is server requirements. The next version of iThemes Security is going to require PHP 7.3. From what we've seen, almost all of y'all are using a PHP version that high, but if you aren't, talk to your host. They can get you updated. Your site's going to need to have OpenSSL supported. 95% plus of all sites have this. If you're not sure, you can ask your host, but you're almost certainly have OpenSSL on your site, so you don't need to worry about it. And the one big thing, your site needs to be behind HTTPS. So this is something we've talked about for a long time. Even if you're not an e-commerce site, even if you're just a blog, you should be using HTTPS. And to use this feature at all, you're going to need HTTPS. So this requirement is going to continue being pushed from the browser makers and vendors, but it's just something that you're going to have to do if you want to use this feature. So with those slides done, I'm going to hop into a little bit of live demo now. Let's see if we can do that. Here we go. Okay, hopefully that is pretty clear to everyone. Okay. So yeah, we have a new menu in iThemes Security called Passkeys. And so this is the Passkeys feature. And there's a new module that you'll need to enable. It might be enabled by default. We're not sure yet. The other thing that you're going to need to do is going to head on over to the configure menu into login security and go to passwordless login. And you want to make sure that Passkeys is checked and enabled here. So this is part of the passwordless login module. So we are still supporting the magic link email-based login feature, but if you want to use Passkeys, you're going to need to check this checkbox. Now, let's take a really quick look first at what this looks like logging in for real. So I'm going to log back into my website here, and I'm going to say I am Timothy. I'm going to get a prompt to ask me if I'm sure I want to do this. I'm going to say yes. And I get the message saying, do you want to sign into timothy.ithemes.dev as Timothy? And I'll say continue. And I'm logged in. Oh, now here's the other thing is this two-factor is partially allowed and partially not allowed. Live demo. I didn't intend for it to be popped up this time. But yes, depending on how your configuration is, you may still have a two-factor requirement. We think you're fine from a security perspective if you don't want to use two-factor when you are logging in with Passkeys, but you will be prompted the first time. So I'm going to enter in my login code. So there are kind of like two settings that configure this in iThemes security. If we go into user groups, there's the setting here called allow two-factor bypass for passwordless login. And so we'll want to make sure that that is allowed for all of our users. So I'm going to allow two-factor bypass. And so what this means is that optionally a user can say, hey, I don't want to, I need to save this here. Let's save. Save it for everyone just to be sure. There we go. And so this will let users make that decision themselves. So on my profile screen here, you can see I have enable passwordless login checked. But then I also have a checkbox here that says use two-factor during passwordless login. So if I want to, I can enable that. Otherwise, I can disable it. And we'll leave it disabled for now. So I'm going to log back out again, and hopefully we'll get a more seamless example this time. Allow and continue. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting this prompt now to say additional security measures. I can choose to enable or disable two-factor, and we'll say we want to disable two-factor. And there we go. So now if I log in with a username and password, I'll also get prompted for two-factor. But when I log in with Passwordless Login, I won't be. And Passwordless Login does some other cool things, not just that one click. So let's pretend that I'm on a different device. I'm going to get a Google Chrome instance over here. Okay. So y'all should hopefully see this Google Chrome window too. And so this is a different browser. And I'm going to say I want to use my passkey here. And so I haven't authenticated with Google Chrome yet. So what I can do is I can verify identity using my iPhone. So pretend, let's say I'm using a different computer. I'm logging in on someone else's site. I click add new phone. It's going to pop up this QR code. And with my phone, I can go to that QR code. I'm hitting with my phone here, sign with a passkey, get this cute little login. I'm going to say continue. It's going to take a picture of my face. And I got logged into Chrome. So one click there, I say, hey, I want to log in using my passkey. I'm using a different device, but I'm able to do it using my phone because iCloud syncing has synced my passkey across all of my devices. So that's the really cool part about how iCloud works for these things, which isn't coming to later this year out of developer preview. So that's kind of why I said a little bit earlier that, hey, you might want to hit pause for a little bit before adopting this if you're an Apple user, because I think Passkeys makes this a lot more clear. But now that I'm on Google Chrome, I'm going to go ahead over into my profile and say that I want to add a passkey for Google Chrome. And so this will let me log in using this device with Google Chrome, even if I didn't have my iPhone with me. And the way I do that is I go over into my profile, go to register passkeys and click on manage passkeys. I can add a new passkey. I'm going to get a little prompt here that says, hey, this is what passkeys mean. This is how you can set it up. I'm going to press add a passkey to register my device. Google Chrome is going to pop this up here. I'm going to say, hey, I want to register with this device. I'm getting, because I have Apple Watch connected to my Mac, a little prompt on my watch that says double click to approve. Hopefully y'all can see that. There we go. I will double click to approve that. And now I'm going to name this device that I just created, and we'll call this Google Chrome. And then we're all done with our passkeys. So we can hit done and exit out. And now if I log in on this Google Chrome device, I'm getting that message that says Google Chrome is trying to verify my identity, and I'm getting a pop-up on my watch. I'm going to double click. and I got instantly logged in. So I have one more kind of flow that I want to demo to you. We're going to create a new subscriber account here. We're going to copy this password. No, we're not going to save that password for now. And we're going to log out. And I'm going to log in as this subscriber user. So we're going to log in with our username and password. And when we click login, I'm going to be prompted to set up two-factor. I'm going to say I don't want to use two-factor for this user, so we'll hit skip. And now I'm being prompted to set up passkeys. So if I want, I can now set up passkeys through this flow. I can just hit skip setup if I'm not ready. If I am, I'll just click, hey, add a passkey. And I'll say this device again. We have my passkey. And now the next time I log in as a subscriber, I'm not going to need to enter my password. I'm just going to say I'm a subscriber, use your passkey, and double click my watch. And I'm logged in. So that's kind of an example of how that flow looks like for a new account. Right now with iThemes security, the first time you set up your account, you're still going to need to log in with a password. We're looking up a way for in the future that you can register without ever needing to use a password. It's a pretty quick flow. I type in my password, I say, hey, I want to use my passkey, and I'm good to go. There are a couple of options in iThemes security that I want to talk about, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So the first one is the flow, actually. So I'm going to switch over to Safari. We'll log in. Right now, we've been using a flow that we call method first. A flow that I really like is the user first flow. So the way that this works is that we first prompt the user for their username. So if we go into Passwordless Login, we can change our Passwordless Login flow to be username first. I'll hit save. And now when I log in through here, I'm going to see a different login form. First, I may be prompted for my username. So maybe we'll log in as a subscriber again. I'll hit continue. And it's going to see what login methods are available to me. So I'll log in with the username and password, use my passkey, or email a magic link. And we'll say I'm going to want to use my passkey again, get logged in. But if for some reason, let's say passwordless login was disabled for my account, I'm going to go over here and say disable. When I log in as a subscriber, I'll get prompted for my password. And so that gives you a really great flow to kind of progressively enable and show what options are available to you as you are using the site. And yeah, I don't have Passkey login enabled. This looks like a little bit of a bug, but as assured, we are still in the early preview days after the release. But yeah, this is Passwordless Login. I think that's everything they want to demo. When y'all, I think you can remind me if there's something I'm missing, but if not, we can open it up into Q&A and talk about this more.
All right. So this is really, really interesting, Timothy. I see a lot of potential, particularly using it with clients and people who might have some confusion. Some good conversation happening in the chat as we went as well. I think, like Sue mentioned, I think there'll be a little bit of education involved for those of us that are supporting clients, for example, on this is the new flow and how it's going to go. And one of the questions was, will iThemes provide some sort of generic training video that we could supply to people that we're serving as our clients? And Kathy Zant from the Cadence team answered, yeah, that's definitely in the works.
Yeah, that's on our roadmap. And our plan is to have documentation that you'll be able to also kind of embed into your site that will be kind of free from iThemes branding, and will just give a kind of like overview of what this feature means. And talking about like the education side of things, we've been using passwords for 30, 40 years. So there's definitely a lot to unpack here. I would say the big thing is that Apple, Google, Microsoft, these very large tech companies are very committed and on board with Passkeys and using this as the future of logging in. And they think it's going to be a lot easier, particularly with some more advancement that we've seen with like the iCloud and device sharing and things like that, that'll make this flow a whole lot easier. And so I'll say though that really this is going to depend on the big sites, the big companies like Apple and Google to really push this to the users and help with that user education side of things. This is, after all, kind of like a feature in your computer. And it'll be something that I hope to see that they'll talk about in their marketing materials and talk about in their documentation. So hopefully come this fall, when Apple says, hey, here's this new iOS release, you're not going to be the first ones needing to teach your clients how to use Passkeys. Apple will have already done some of that work for you. And hopefully the fingers crossed will be they'll see this cool new marketing feature that Apple says, hey, you can log into a site with one click and they'll ask you, how do I get that for my WordPress site?
Exactly. This is fantastic. So there's a bunch of questions stacked up, folks. If you have not yet done so, please pop open the Q&A window and either ask a question if you haven't asked one yet, or upvote the questions that others have asked, so we know which questions are the most interesting. And I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. In the meantime, one of the big questions that happens, what happens now with two-factor authentication, what if you lose your phone or lose your computer or you get a new device? How easy is it to deal with that situation with a passkey?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so that's the biggest part. If you saw in my slide there, WebAuthn / Passkeys have been in development for 6 years. Is something that there's been a lot of thinking on. And that is one of the hard parts to figure out. But Apple has kind of been, I would say, the people moving this way the best. So the way that this works with Apple is through iCloud. So when I generate a passkey using iCloud, which is just what you'll have when you log in with Safari, that passkey gets saved into my iCloud account, like any of my other passwords and things like that. And so that automatically gets transferred to all of my different devices, my iPhone, my watch, my Mac, my iPads, everything that I'm logged into with iCloud now has access to that same passkey. And so the only thing that you need to remember then is your iCloud account. You got to remember your iCloud account to be able to gain access to that. If for some reason you lose all of your Macs, your house burns down, your phones all wind up in the wash, everything all at once breaks, Apple does have a kind of recovery flow that will let you get back into your iCloud account by like proving you are who you say you are. And so what I'd like to see is for other ecosystems to adopt what Apple is adopting. The other thing is that you can register multiple devices. So when you go into your account there, you can say, hey, the first time I'm going to log in using the authentication that is built into my phone, and I can carry my phone around anywhere and log into any site using my phone. But let's just to be sure, let's also create a passkey for my Mac, maybe my desktop computer that doesn't leave the house. And so then I have two options available to you. But that is a good point of like what happens when everything goes away. And so that's why right now we still require passwords to be part of your account. So you'll still have a password that's associated account. That's why it's still important to use a strong password. You're just not going to have to type it in. So don't turn off your strong password requirements. But it does mean that then if you lose access to everything, you can log in with a password, go through the regular password reset flow that WordPress has, get back into your account and set up another passkey.
Very interesting. One more question that I had personally, and then we'll turn it over to some audience questions. So earlier when you were adding, you went through the flow to add a passkey using Chrome. It said use your Android phone, but yet you used your iPhone. So Google's just trying to push you to Android, I guess.
Yeah. So this was the way that the like phone-based sharing of things work is kind of like a newer part of these systems. And so originally Google Chrome's version of this would only kind of work with Android. But this is now also developed into a kind of standard. And so I don't know which Google version it's planned for, but there is a Google Chrome update that will remove the Android part of the equation. It'll just say add a new phone. And if you take a look at Apple's video from WWDC this year, when they do their whole, hey, look at all these cool things that are coming, you can kind of see that in their demo video that it doesn't say add a new Android phone. So you can, in fact, use your iPhone, but right now it just says use your Android phone.
So when you scan that code, QR code of some sort with the phone, what happened on the phone?
Yeah, so my phone prompts me, and I'll see if we can show this to y'all a little bit better. Oh, I have a video of this. Let me grab this video. Because yeah, this is, it was a little bit challenging to figure out how we want to demo Passkeys because there's so many different devices with my phone being involved and my computer being involved, and Zoom doesn't provide a great way of sharing two devices at once, unfortunately. But I'm going to move this video over here. So hopefully y'all can see this. So this is me logging in via Google Chrome and my iPhone, what I just showed you. So I get prompted for an Android phone. And now you can see this is me on my phone. I'm going to click sign in with a passkey. It says, hey, do you want to sign in? I'm going to say yes. And then on the site here, I get signed in right after. So what's happening is that Google Chrome is presenting, hey, here is this challenge that you need to sign and deal with. My phone says, hey, yep, this is that person. They are who they say they are. Chrome gets told that, and then Chrome says, okay, we can log them in. So that's basically how that flow is working at 1,000-foot level. Yeah.
That is just amazing. Okay. Lots of questions stacked up here. If you have a question you haven't asked, please do that. If you'd like to upvote the questions of others, please do that as well. All right. First question from Ben Bradley. Is biometric login going to be available for all users? For example, if I have a membership site, lots of folks signing in, or maybe an e-commerce store, can this be used for all of my users?
Yeah, if you'd like to. So it's part of the Passwordless Login module. So inside of iThemes security, you can say if it's enabled or disabled by default for users, and you can say what user groups it's enabled or disabled for. So if you want to enable it for, let's say, subscribers, which we are, you can do that. Right now, it is able to be integrated at launch with WooCommerce, Restrict Content Pro, Easy Digital Downloads, and Lifter LMS. We're also planning on adding support for LearnDash and TEC before release, and it's pretty easy to integrate with other plugins as well. You kind of just include a little link, and a modal pop-up will appear that lets you log in, and then you'll be taken forward. So yeah, that is part of the feature. So you can, anyone who's on your site can use it if they want to.
Very good. Question from Sue. So the private key you talked about, is that something you have to keep safe somewhere to use again, like if you get a new phone or computer? We kind of answered this, but maybe specifically that.
Yeah, so as a user, no, there's nothing that you need to do. Your device takes care of it. So when you log in, your device is going to say, hey, here's this public key. I'm going to store this private key. But if you saw when I was registering a device, that private key is never shown to me. I don't need to memorize it. I don't need to write it down. I don't need to keep it in a safe. My computer holds on to it. So as long as my computer is protected, my private key is protected. And so obviously don't go sharing out your computer's password with other people. But yes, it's not something that you need to take care of. Your computer takes care of it for you.
Yeah, very good. So next question is from Paul, and actually Dace had a similar question, and they both revolve around, so what if we have currently a shared WordPress user that multiple people are using? How does that work in the Passkey scenario?
Sure. So I would say, well, so I'll say there are two things here. One, I would never encourage account sharing. It's going to work against you with features like trusted devices, where we try and keep track of like the IP addresses that people log into. It's really bad for audit logging. If you're using multiple accounts, you don't know if you did this or one of the 7 other people that are using this account did this. So I always recommend create separate user accounts for everyone. Even bigger deal, say someone leaves your company and you have a shared WordPress account that you use on across 40 sites. You're going to have to change that password on every single one of those sites. And everyone's going to have to know that they need to use the new password. If you have a different account for each of these people, you can get rid of that account. Now, what we saw here, though, is that on my device section, I have my registered passkeys. I don't have just a single passkey. So we can see I have a passkey here for iCloud. I have a passkey here for Google Chrome. So if I wanted to, I could create multiple passkeys for each of these people. So you could log in, you could say, hey, I want to register a passkey on their device, and they can register that device using their own passkey. And anyone can log in with that passkey into that account. There's not a need for like, hey, this is the one true and only. Any passkey could work. I would say like a better solution in that case probably would be like a YubiKey or something like that you like maybe pass around. But I really would say security best practice. Everyone should have separate user accounts.
Yes, and that was said with emphasis with the shaking of the finger. So that's we definitely good takeaway from this one. All right, let's see. Manu has a great question. Will logging in with a camera on a computer be good enough for facial recognition?
Okay, so this is probably a little bit of a misconception. And yeah, I just wanted to show the like insert for a security key option. Excuse me. So the Face ID and Touch ID things, this isn't part of what we're doing as iThemes security. And so this is a little bit of the confusing part with biometrics. What we're saying is we support passkeys and passwordless login through WebAuthn. The device that you use is what is able to determine that, hey, do you have biometric support? Do you have Touch ID? Do you have PIN numbers that you have to use? So it's going to depend on your device. If you're using something like an iPhone, modern Android phones, they have their own Touch ID and Face ID sensors. On the Mac, there isn't like a Face ID option yet. On Windows, you do. You have Windows Hello. But this isn't a thing where you can connect a webcam to your computer, point it at your face, and iThemes security is going to make sure that that face is the same face that was registered earlier. That's up to your device to securely do. And the biometric part of that thing is really just verifying that you are who you say you are. So the same way that you might, for instance, if you're on your iPhone and you want to log into your bank, I can't remember the last time I typed in my password, but it prompts up that face. And so that's the same kind of thing here, is that your iPhone is storing your bank password, and then it's logging in for you when it knows it's you. And it's the same thing with passkeys. It's going to say, hey, is this the person they say they are? Okay, we'll send them that information that they need to know.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And so currently, iThemes, goodness, Apple Face ID is only supported on handheld devices. So
right.
The camera on a MacBook, for example, does not have a high enough resolution to actually map a face, and certainly not my little webcam I've got on top of my monitor here.
Yeah,
maybe one day, but
that's what's great
not.
about the iCloud options, right? Is so that when I want to do it, I can log into my phone, which does have Face ID, and I'll just say, hey, let's point my phone at my computer and get on going.
Yeah. Okay, Stacy, is it possible to turn off two-factor requirements for passkey login, but keep it turned on for the username and password login?
One more time.
So is it possible to turn, let's just say we want to have a site where some users are using passkeys and other users might be using standard username and passwords, right? Mm-hmm. Can you turn off two-factor for the passwordless folks, but keep it turned on for username and password people?
Yeah, so that's what I talked about with two-factor bypass. So if we go into user groups, we have this option here that says allow two-factor bypass for passwordless login. So if you have this checked, the way it works right now for iThemes security is that if the user has two-factor enabled, the first time they log in using passwordless login, they'll be prompted to say, hey, well, excuse me, let me back up. The first time they log in with passwordless login, they'll use passwordless login. They'll get a thing that says enter in your two-factor code, and then they'll be prompted, and they get to choose, do I want to provide two-factor every time I log in with passwordless login, or don't I? And so they have the option of like, yeah, I'm actually, this is really secure account. It's really important to me. I'm going to keep that two-factor option enabled. But if they don't want to, they can skip it. And that's configurable on the profile there. So if we go into my profile, we see this option here, use two-factor during passwordless login. And so if that's unchecked, I won't be prompted for it. And that's why you didn't see it in the couple of things here. But if I do check it, then when I log in with passwordless login, I will be asked to.
Very cool. Let's see.
And I say, we think that it's fine if you want to enable this. We don't think it's a security problem to say, hey, if I'm using passkeys, I think we're safe to say that that's fine. You don't need to also use two-factor when you're logging in.
Very good. And I think the next question relates to something right there on the screen. Stacy would like to know, can we revoke the passkey of a device that's lost or stolen?
Yeah. So if you go into manage passkeys, you can hit delete. So let's say we don't want to log in with Google Chrome anymore. It says it was added on this date, it was deleted on this date, and 7 days from now, it'll be permanently deleted. If I wanted to restore it, let's say I did it by mistake, I thought I lost the device, but it was actually just under the 4th couch cushion, I can restore that device.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. So next question is from Manu, and you've answered this sort of in a different angle, but what Manu would like to know is, if a device is stolen, can a thief access your passkey?
So if they're able to log, well, so there are two parts here. One, if the device is stolen and you're using a YubiKey, this YubiKey is my Passwordless Login. So if they're able to activate this YubiKey, then they're able to get through. So you need to protect this if this is your primary authentication mechanism. If you're using, however, something like your phone, them just having the phone isn't enough. They would have to be able to log into your phone with your password. And then iOS, for instance, I can't speak to how it works on Android, but iOS secures this data in what's called a secure enclave. And it's the same on macOS. And for that, they also need to have your face. So they would have to have stolen your device, hold your face up to the phone, and they could get you in. But just having the device isn't enough. They're stored in a very secure spot. So they would need to steal your device and steal your password and potentially your face.
That just brings up all sorts of scary scenarios, doesn't it? It's like the next zombie movies coming out here. They're going to, anyway.
And
okay,
that is, Paul's comments made a little bit tongue in cheek. But I'd say that's also part of why usually just a camera isn't enough. What happens with Face ID is there are a whole bunch of infrared sensors that actually try and make sure that your face is three-dimensional. That is not just a picture of you. So these sensors are actually pretty difficult to trick.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. John has the next question. So once biometric login is established on my iMac, then anyone can log in if they're on my iMac desktop. Is that right? If not, what is the backup situation when someone else needs to access the site in case of emergency?
All right, so I guess there are two questions there. Someone would be able to using your Mac if they're able to successfully biometrically authenticate or they're logged into your device. So when your account is logged in for Apple, it's not going to prompt you for two-factor using Touch ID or something like that. It's not going to prompt you for your password again, usually. Yes, if they are in your device, they can then log in as you. If there's someone else who needs to gain access to that account, like we kind of mentioned before, passwords are still a thing. So you can store your password in your will or something like that, which can be a good practice. There are also some kind of like services for this that handle like giving out passwords after someone has passed away and they're able to prove that there's a death certificate. You can give it to someone you trust. So there is still that option. And you could also register multiple passkeys. But I would always say that if you need other people to be able to gain access to your site, you should just give them a multiple user accounts and have their own user account that they can log in. But yeah, the in case of emergency thing would still be a password or just register another passkey.
Yeah, John, if that didn't answer your question, just you can clarify there in the chat. I'll be watching. Next question is from Ben. I'm a Mac iPhone user, but not a Safari user. What do you recommend to proceed with the adoption? Should we keep going or should we wait?
So I would say things will get a lot better for macOS/iOS people come this fall with a new version of Safari. Right now, to enable the iCloud syncing that I talked about, you have to enable developer mode and enable a checkbox and things like that. It's been in testing for like a year and a half or so, but Apple has said that this is coming in the next major Safari version, so I'd wait till then. And the same with logging in using my iPhone, using something like Google Chrome. That's also right now behind a developer kind of guard. So the story for those devices on iOS is that it's a little bit slower than the other device manufacturers. I would say you can use Google Chrome right now really well. You'll just get the option to type in your computer's password, or if you're using a watch like me, you get that little watch prompt to double click on your watch to just log in. But in the future, I think Safari will be the best option for Mac users. It's just going to be a couple of months before those new devices come out. Interesting.
So right along that same subject, Paul would like to know, when we're talking about the term devices, and we've used that for a lot of different things, is a browser a device? So each browser you use should be registered.
So again, this depends. So the thing that I kind of talk about is WebAuthn is supported everywhere, but what it means is different on different devices. And when we launch, we're going to work up a kind of like spreadsheet of how these features are different for different users. I would say like one of the things to always be mindful with like cross-browser stuff is that us as developers, we're the ones who are using 5 different browsers and 6 different computers to test everything. But most people, they just use the same browser every time. So they'll just need to learn the one way that passkeys work for them. So right now, if you're a Windows user, the authentication is built into your device. So if you're prompted to set up a passkey, and you set up your passkey, it's stored into that Windows computer, and you could use any browser there. On Mac OS, it is per browser. So Google Chrome, I needed to set up a separate passkey for Google Chrome versus Safari. But if you're using Safari with iCloud, it's syncing across all of my devices. So any device that is running Mac OS that's logged into my iCloud account, I'll be able to log into with the same passkey, be that my iPhone, my iPad, my desktop Mac, my laptop, etc. All of those will be shared in iCloud. But Google Chrome doesn't have access to iCloud, at least not yet. Maybe that is something that'll come in the future, but that's not a possibility. That being said, again, you can do the flow that I kind of demoed in that video there, where you just take your iPhone, you point it at the QR code when you're logging in with Google Chrome, because just any iOS device is what I need to be able to log in anywhere I am.
It's a great question. And a follow-up, both from Sue and Paul. Does an incognito Chrome, for example, count as a different device?
Nope. So it's stored in, when we talk about Macs need to be recent Macs, they need to be Macs, I believe, with a secure enclave, which is like any Mac after like 2016 or 2017 or so. And so your passkey is stored into that secure enclave. And so it'll work with Google Chrome, incognito, what have you. They're not treated as separate passkeys. And yeah, I would say, in terms of like the registering each browser type of thing, most people that are like our clients where we're really wanting to use this feature, they're not using 7 different browsers like we do, where we're cross-browser testing everything. But yes, you also won't need to register a different passkey when you're using iCloud syncing, because you'll, again, just be able to log in using your iPhone.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see, we're right at 2 o'clock now. I still have 7 questions. So let's move to a lightning round, right? Quick questions, quick answers. You up for that?
Sure. I'm here all day, so, you know.
Okay. Then talk slow. It's fine. So Gordon would like to know, and again, this is something that's been answered in different contexts, but just specifically, what steps would I need to take if I change out my computer? If I get a new computer, what do I have to do?
Sure. So if you are using a Mac with iCloud, you don't have to do anything. It's stored into your iCloud device. If your device yet doesn't have a great way of going computer to computer by the manufacturer, I don't know if there's a way to do this, for instance, in Windows yet. But what you'll want to do is when you log in, you can log in with your password, and then you'll register that device. So you're still going to have a password that's associated with your account. It's just not going to be a password that you need to log into all the time. So when you move to a new device, if you're not using something that syncs passkeys, you won't have to, you'll have to set up a passkey again. But that's why the passkey syncing is the really cool feature that Apple is adding here. And if you're using a phone, it's even easier, right? Because you can have your phone that will be your passkey. And then you'll log in on your new computer. You'll say, hey, I want to use a passkey. You'll point your camera at the QR code that pops up. You'll get logged in. And then if you want to, you can register another passkey for your new device.
Gotcha. Deborah's question, do you need a different passkey for every browser, user, device, and OS?
Yeah, so again, it's going to depend on your computer. So if you're using Apple and iCloud, it'll sync across all of the devices that are using iCloud. If you're using Google Chrome, again, that's why it's best to use a movable authenticator like your phone. With Google Chrome, you can click that add a new Android phone button, and then your Android phone becomes the device. And anytime you see a pop-up, you just point your Android phone at that pop-up and you get logged in. So that's kind of my recommendation there. You don't really need to, like you can see in my account here, like this is the account I'm using. I have 2 passkeys registered. I don't need to register passkeys for everything. I'm able to log into this using my iPhone right now, my other Mac right now, everything. Got it.
Roy would like to know what you think about whether passkeys are going to be a LastPass one password killer ultimately.
So I think that's part of the goal by browser manufacturers is that you should really, the one password you'll need is the password to your computer / iCloud account. And I would love to see that be the case. It'll take a while depending on like getting things like financial institutions or probably like the big slow moving ones. So I still say a password manager is a good thing to have for the passwords that you do need to store. And yeah, like Sue points out, you can store credit cards, passports, social security numbers, financial information, even like software license keys and stuff like that in a password manager. So that's not the only use case, but hopefully the days of needing to open up your password manager and find the password and copy and paste and so on and so forth are dead.
Yeah, interesting. Gert, is a great question from Stacy. We talked about it's not a great idea to share user accounts between people, but what about a scenario where you're visiting a relative and you use their computer? She says currently she visits her brother, uses his computer, and then just two factors into her LastPass account there. How would that work with a passkey scenario?
Yeah, great question. So if I log in here, I'm going to say we want to log in. And we'll say I want to use my passkey. I'll have this sign-in option available, which won't prompt me if I'm logging in on someone else's computer. But if it does, you can say other sign-in options, and I can select my iPhone. And so then it's going to pop up this screenshot with this QR code, the same way kind of we saw in Google Chrome. So that's how you would kind of do this in a multi-device world, is you'll have the thing that says, hey, use my phone. And the phone that you carry with you will be what you use to log in. And you'll be able to log in on someone else's computer.
It's brilliant. That's just amazing.
Saw that in action there.
Okay, great question here from Samiti. How does this apply to WordPress multi-site, especially as a master administrator who's logging into all the accounts via the parent site?
So right now we don't support multi-site for passkeys. The thing with passkeys, this is something that we'll look into supporting in the future. Part of the security of passkeys is that they're tied to the domain name. So if you have subdomains or subdirectory installs, it would be possible to do this with passkeys, but right now domain mapping wouldn't work with multi-site. The way it would work with subdomains is kind of as normal. You would log in and you wouldn't need to set up 30 different passkeys, one for each site. You just have the passkey with your user account. And then, yeah, we're looking at a better way to support multi-site more holistically before we launch support for it. So to start on launch, we won't be supporting multi-site.
Yeah, interesting. Let's see. Question from Dace. Will two-factor be supported in parallel with passkeys, or do you intend to deprecate two-factor at some point in the future?
We have zero intentions to deprecate two-factor. So two-factor will continue to be supported ad infinitum. I would say the thing that we probably aren't going to be adding to two-factor is new two-factor types. Right now, this initial feature of passkeys is just going to be using passkeys for logging in. But we're also going to add passkeys that you can use as a two-factor method. So if you want to continue using a username plus password plus two-factor, you'll be able to do that. So we won't be integrating with other two-factor providers most likely in the future. But two-factor is here to stay. Usernames and passwords are here to stay. That will probably offer options for people who want to disable them if they want to. But yeah, all of those features are here to stay.
Interesting. So this will be I believe it's our final question. So Paul just asked, so is the old school method of username password still going to work? For example, there's some problem for some reason, the passkey, we're just having trouble. Earlier, you just showed one of like other options. Is logging in with username and password one of those options? Like as a last.
So I'm going to enter in my username here. And I get an option here that says log in with username and password. And I'll put in my password. If I'm honest, I don't remember the password of this account anymore. Because I've just been using passkeys. But yes, that feature is not going to go away.
Very good. All right. That brings us to the end of questions, Timothy. This is just phenomenal. I am super excited about the potential here. This is a new technology. It's just starting to roll out. It's going to be interesting, I think, a year from now, having a year of this option under our belt, where this is going to be going forward. Any final thoughts as we're wrapping up?
Yeah, I would say I agree. I think the big thing here is what different device manufacturers are going to do in terms of user education. Excuse me. On iOS, for instance, passkeys aren't just going to be for logging into websites. Apps can integrate with passkeys and things like that. So I expect and hope that Apple and Google and Microsoft will really be pushing passkeys. And they've all said that they are really on board because passwords suck, man. We outlined all the reasons that they're terrible. Go to Have I Been Pwned, and I'm sure you'll see multiple of your passwords that have been stolen. It's pretty horrible. So those big tech companies are really on board pushing passkeys. And I would say we need to encourage it. We need to do our parts in educating our clients and about why these are important, because we have been using passwords for 40 years. There's going to be a little bit of a education to people who are using them. But I do think that it's worth learning a new thing. And in the end, it will be a much better experience for logging in for everyone and much more secure. Hopefully, compromised accounts will be a thing of the past.
Very good. And I'm correct in saying, right, that iThemes Security will be the first WordPress security plugin to bring Passkeys to WordPress?
Yeah, so as far as I know, we're currently the first WordPress security plugin that is using Passkeys for logging in. Some people have added support for WebAuthn as like a two-factor method and things like that. But I think our passwordless login is the first, if not very early. I mean, you can kind of see that with Safari and Apple going to be a couple more months before it's really prime time. But I would say the experience right now is really great for Chrome, Windows, Android users, and it'll be great for iPhone users just around the corner.
Yeah. And reiterating, the release of iThemes Security that will contain this new passkey feature is coming out when?
So we don't have a date confirmed yet. We're going to be almost certainly this August, but it might be a little bit later. And we'll be publishing a lot of content associated with this release, both for helping you educate your clients, educating you on how the feature works, demos, tutorials. We're going to be putting a lot of content out. So this isn't going to be the last time that you're going to see any of this information.
Sure.
So we hope you've enjoyed this kind of like early sneak peek at Passkeys, but you're going to be hearing more from us.
Definitely. And again, this was a sneak peek. That was in the title of today's training webinar. So like Timothy said, we'll be doing a lot more training on this feature going forward on iThemes Security, both from a technical perspective, as well as I'm sure from a client and business perspective. I'm really looking forward to this just personally in our agency work. I think it's going to be a huge change, a good change for our clients. So with that, we'll wrap up. Timothy, any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, just really enjoyed the past hour. Looking forward to having you all take your hands on Passkeys.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Timothy, for sharing your wisdom and insight with us. It's been great. Thank all of you for being with us as well. Hopefully it was a good investment of your time, and you are as excited as I am about the new Passkeys features in iThemes Security. So once again, my name is Nathan Ingram from everybody else here at iThemes. Hope you have a great rest of the day. I'm back here tomorrow for office hours for our members here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.